a while ago, one of you decried well, psychology and psychiatry as I guess it was you, Lou, that had mentioned that, and your disdain for them. Mm-hmm. Now, actually, now when Hubbard began his kind of anti-psychology campaign, that was at a time when there was a lot less known about psychology than now. Like any science, it's apparently the knowledge and indeed wisdom in that subject area is growing exponentially. And now, is there going to be a time, perhaps in the future, will you always dislike psychology and psychiatry, or could it get to a point where once they learn what you already know, at that point will it become a legitimate science or something worthy of mention? I guess the reason is that, you know, if you look at medical science, it started with leeches and shamans, you know, and oh, leeches are back in? Where have I been?
They're really good for necrotic tissue.
Great, well, I'll try one tonight. So I actually, most sciences have a humble beginning, but most sciences that are worthy of the name have continued to grow and have continued to elevate their level of knowledge and wisdom. So I'm asking that question about psychology, but I'm also asking that about Scientology. Is that phenomenon existing within Scientology now, or is pretty much everything that you know pretty much left to you by L. Ron Hubbard and not being contributed by others?
Well, I'll answer the question. First of all, Ron was such a prolific writer that they're finding things that didn't know were there, and it adds to the technology. One thing. The thing that's important is that I think my viewpoint, and it's not necessarily Scientology's viewpoint, but I think that if psychiatry, primarily psychiatry more so than psychology, because they're allowed to make prescriptions for drugs and put people on Ritalin and Prozac and all kinds of crap. But if they decided to clean up the mess they've created, seriously, if they could clean up the mess that they've created in terms of drug addicts, messed up lives, people who have had lobotomies and electric shock treatment, which is still done, okay? And really took responsibility for cleaning up that area, you know, and they decided to be more humanistic than barbaric, then I don't see any problem. I got into Scientology from a psychologist who had seen what he thought was truth and stopped being a psychologist, became a Scientologist. So he was in there, and he was, you know, once he cleaned up whatever he had done, he hadn't done anything harmful to himself personally. And there are many good people in psychiatry and psychology as medical people who really care. But there are also others who want to control, okay? And I don't want to be controlled with Prozac, Xanax, or any other kind of drug. Or any street drugs either, or any kind of drug at all.
Do you see any levels of control in Scientology?
Yeah, there's good control and there's bad control. A whole lot of control. It's not a bad word, control, okay? We're controlling ourselves here to a degree so we're courteous to others. I'm controlling myself, you're controlling yourself to some degree. But it's not bad. Well, what's so funny?
You're not controlling yourself when you have these blatant lies and attacks and throw out diarrhea of the mouth.
I could say the same thing. I could say the same thing here.
70% cure rate. I gave my sources, sir. I asked you for respectful sources. And it is no accident that Dr. Michael Shermer used your rate, 70%, that you claimed as a cure rate, which is blatantly false, on rehab programs. He said 70% of the statistics that the Scientologists use are made up, except when it comes to marketing their books, which 100% are made up. Because, of course, their book fraud, where they had recycled discount books that were used that they'd resell and get books on the bestseller list, is well documented, and you can check the source.
I sold 7 of them this morning. I sold 7 this morning at the mall.
Dr. Michael Shermer is called negatively by Scientologists a debunker is that we have bunk. If we didn't have bunk, we wouldn't need the debunkers.
I got it. Good. Is that it?
Can I respond to that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you'll find for the most part when you meet and talk with Scientologists, they're for the most part free thinkers, like you guys in your group that I met with. A few years ago, I had heard those statistics about the Crimenon programs, which were designed to rehabilitate criminals. Now, I've been in Scientology for a long time, but I hadn't had any experience with that application of the technology. So I went up to a prison in LA and looked at the program they're running, where the young juveniles were in there for murder. And I was scared to death. They made us walk across this whole compound when they were marching prisoners in and out, and I'm going, whoa. We got into this room, it was cell or block 12, and they were teenage kids that were murderers. And I wanted to see for myself, because I heard these great stories of how great they were doing, but I got into Scientology as a skeptic, and I still am. So I went with a friend of mine, and we saw what they were doing. I said, okay, let's test this out for ourselves. We came back to San Diego. In fact, Lou helped me with this program. You remember Ernie Wright, the Charger, ex-Charger? Anyhow, him and his son have several detention facilities in San Diego County. They're privately owned. So I talked to them, and I said, I want to try this program. What I did first is I surveyed all the wardens of all the prisons in town, and I said, what do you do for rehabilitation? And they all said, one for one, we don't do rehabilitation. And I was like, you don't? Because I'd heard these numbers, that the recidivism rate was 70 to 85%, depending on which study, returned to prison after the first year of being released. I said, okay. So I went and talked to this Ernie Wright, and he said, okay, let's test this out. So we put the program in there. After the first year, I had them check their records and to see the people that got out if they had returned.
Committed another crime.
Right. Zero.
Right.
After 2 years, there was one guy that maybe, but they weren't sure if he had committed the crime and was just getting to court on it now.
How many people went through the program in that period of time? Roughly.
Probably about 60
60 to 70 people.
to 70 people. I saw these inmates change right before my eyes. There was this one girl, she had to be 300 pounds. They warned me about her. They said, this young lady starts all the fights in this prison. Trying to work with her, she was a Chicano girl. I'm this little white guy. She didn't like me a bit. Towards the end of the course, you know what she said to me? She says, you know what?
You're the greatest person in the world.
If I win the lotto, you know what I would do? I said, no, what? She says, the first thing I'd do, I'd buy a small house for my family. But then I would open up a center to do this program because you've changed my life. The wardens told, or the guards told me on the side that she now breaks up fights. It gets results. I didn't believe the hoopla. We went and tested it for ourselves. And it worked. So,
Is that program still ongoing?
no, it wasn't. I had to go out of town for 3 months, so I ended it. And
The one here in San Diego.
the one here in San Diego, the one in the Ensenada prison is still going.
Yeah, but the one in San Diego is.
Right.
It was a pilot from the beginning. It was a pilot program.
And nobody picked it up.
No, because we did it.
We did it.
And I really did it to test to see if this stuff really works.
And it was not the exclusive rehab program. It was thrown out as being the exclusive under the establishment clause by a fellow at the other humanist group up the hill here. And they had smart recovery, rational recovery concurrently for those who so chose.
At the work program? Is that what you're talking about?
The detention centers and the prisons and the halfway houses for adolescents in this county are required to have secular, and 12-step, and as some churches call it, 1-step, 2-step.
These were
It was not
adults.
the sole program.
These were adults.
Well, I just want to say, I accompanied a social worker to the prisons, and there was a rehab program going on, very similar to.
They're private ones for the most part.
Yeah, so, I mean, there are accompanying.
Oh, sure, there's several of them.
But I mean, that would then facilitate your program and bring about that kind of rehab.
Well, actually, they only did this one program, the people that we worked with. But there are several in there, but none by the prison system.
Can I ask you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was just a very interesting afternoon that I spent finding out what the root causes, how much heredity plays within the group, testosterone for the very aggressive women, that have more testosterone. And so
Gotta go
they,
back.
over a wide perspective, they were
You know, ma'am, the main thing that I think the main thing that I think the program gave people in the facility was the fact that simple courses like we do, like the Way to Happiness course, you mentioned the communication course when you first got into Scientology, I did that too. They got that. And what I saw happening with some of these gangbangers and ex-gangbangers was that they got their dignity back. In other words, that's what's taken away by the system. Also by the decisions they make to commit crimes, obviously they lose their dignity once they decide to go illegal.
Me?
But the fact is, a lot of them didn't know why. They were raised in a one-parent or no-parent house, you know. And the Way to Happiness you guys talked about, there's one thing here that says, you know, do not steal. And this guy was doing the course, and he came up and he goes, "Hey, Lou." I said, "What?" He says, "It's not okay to steal?" I said, "No, it's not." And these kids respected us because they said, "What are you guys doing here? Are you being paid?" "No, we're volunteers." "Would you rather be home with your old lady making love?" I said, "No, I'd rather be here Tuesday and Thursday night working with you guys." But these kids are straight. And they respected all of us, Gary and everybody else who was in there, because we didn't have to be there. And I told this kid, "No, it's not okay to steal, Johnny." He walked away, he walked away and sat down, and he didn't move the rest of the course period. He just sat there looking at the book. So I can imagine what was going through his head. All the time he just ripped people off. He never knew any different. That is how you got things if you wanted them. You took them from somebody else. But these kids, when they went through the program, we had more wins off of their wins. It was like our pay for doing that. Because some of these kids, you know, that black dude, what was his name? You know what I'm talking about, the white tennis shoes. We had so much fun working with those people, and they got better. They actually got better. There's one big Hawaiian kid I see once in a while in Chula Vista, and he came up to me and tapped me on the shoulder like that, and I said, "Hey, what's up?" And so, you know, we talked, and it was like he remembered me from this is what, 3 years ago? When did we do it? 3-4 years ago? The guy remembered me. He knew my name. And it's like, I said, "You staying out of prison?" He goes, "Yeah, we learned," because I learned rather, you know, not to do that crap anymore. It's stupid. The point is that 4 years later, the guy stops me in a Vaughn's grocery store and wants to thank me. I mean, come on, guys, that's like,
That's
you
it.
can't put a price tag on that or what it's worth. It means everything to me and other Scientologists who do things like that. So yeah, please, when you guys want to attack, there's plenty there you can attack about. But just, you know, look at the other side of the coin, please. And those people we've helped in a real, honest way. Yes.
You're talking about, you know, it's not right to steal. Do you agree with, and I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Wendy.
Wendy, do you agree with Wendy's statement earlier that in the 1979 Operation Snow White case, that nothing was stolen from the government?
I'm not sure. I don't know all the particulars. I know that some of the stuff that occurred kind of evolved into the Freedom of Information Act because there were some lies written about us. Oh yeah, I did. That's fine. Whatever. Okay.
Well, I mean, you can see the court documents where there was a stipulation of evidence that Scientology agreed to when its 10 top officials, including Mary Sue Hubbard, were
Right.
in
I
prison
understand. They did go to prison. Yeah.
for the
Okay.
stealing of documents and bugging of officers.
I understand that. Yes, they did go into offices and took certain documents that were against Scientology. Let me finish now.
Sure.
They did go to court and they lost and they went to prison. And they were released after that. And not long after that, we got full recognition by the IRS that Scientology is a bona fide, quote-unquote, religion and has all the benefits, the tax benefits that the Catholic Church, the Mormon Church has also. We fought them for 50 years or 40 years before they saw the fact that we were right.
But you were aware of this when Wendy said this is a fact that no one went to prison, no documents were
Well,
stolen.
okay.
Wouldn't it have been a good thing to say, well, Wendy, that's not exactly true?
Okay, because I'll be real upfront with you. I don't know all. You mentioned the Snow White case. Is that the
Operation
the
Snow White.
Chicago or whatever they call it?
No, Operation Snow White was the operation that Hubbard put into effect to systematically bug government offices, steal documents.
I
and
can't
this is
answer
what his wife and 9 other officials went to
Okay,
prison.
I don't know all the facts on that. I don't want to make just an answer just to satisfy myself or you, because I don't know. There's certain things that happened that were you mentioned the FBI raid. One of my own clients was the FBI guy who called it. You know, one of my insurance clients. And I felt, God, I shouldn't be working with this guy. And I said, no, he needs help on his work, and I did it. And the church knows about it. It's not a problem.
What's his name?
I don't want to give that name out. I'm sorry. It's a client information.
All right, I understand.
But I'm just saying, I'm not aware of every single, thing that occurred regarding Scientologists doing this, and Scientologists and OSA and Guardian's office.
And yet I think many critics are aware of these things.
Fine.
But for us to speak out about these things, I think is proper.
I'll tell you what, let me give you an answer here. Maybe this will work. I am not a PR specialist. I am not a person who speaks for the church on a regular basis. Okay? I'm a guy who cares a lot. I'm a guy who's done a lot to help. If I was really a PR person, I have all those names, dates all categorized so I can speak to these accusations and to your statistics and the other questions you have. Okay? But I don't know them all. I don't know them all, so please forgive me. I'll try to,
But I would point out that when Wendy attends an event like this in order to provide facts and information, and she says something that is blatantly false, it does not make Scientology
Okay,
look good.
you're right. Fine.
Same with the Lisa McPherson case. Lisa McPherson died brutally under the care of Scientology, and the people who are watching over Lisa McPherson, I believe, were really looking out for her the best way they knew how, which was to follow Hubbard's policy.
And good medical.
And I don't have anything, I'm not going to say anything negative about those people because I think they were trying to help. It ended up with her death. And they were not acquitted in the court of law, as Wendy stated. The legal case from the state, the criminal case, was dropped after all sorts of nuttiness. And the civil case was recently settled, which I don't think you can say is, they were cleared of everything. I mean, they paid money to the family to settle the case, which is, I think, proper.
I agree.
But I don't think it's fair for you to come to an event and say, you purposely came with this information to say that these are things that Scientology attacks on, and they're lies. I mean, the critics attack Scientology, and they're lies. Well, those are in fact lies.
All right, we apologize. Just real quick, let me just apologize for the error that was made relative to the sun, whatever you call a Snow White thing or whatever. I apologize for myself and for Wendy if there was an error made in that point.
And just a couple other.
There are some other people here who would like to contribute.
I would like to hear from some other people. I think you should have equal time at least, but I'd like to hear from some other people that are here.
Frederick's hand was up for a long time.
Yeah, 5 sentences I'd like to get a response to. Number one, is cigarette smoking a cause of cancer, or is cancer cured by smoking more? Number two, when Ron Hubbard died, was that fact disclosed to the public, or did the Scientologists try to conceal it, as my friends in heaven say happened? Number three, the Sea Organization mysteriously, never known, comings and goings, and as an old process server, I would like to know if there is any intent to avoid legal service of process. Number four, did the human race evolve here on Earth, or were we immigrants, or our ancestors immigrants from some planet in another stellar system billions of years ago? Number five, Is the cross a symbol of Christianity? And if so, is Scientology a Christian organization, as indicated by the Scientology badge?
Those were 5, right?
Right.
Okay. The first first 4, I have no idea. The last one, you'll notice that isn't quite like a Christian cross, and it has definite design and symbolizes a whole list of things.
Doesn't look like a Star of David.
Well, I mean, we didn't have a lot of choices. You got the Star of David, you got the cross, you got the Greek Orthodox
Are
cross.
you a Christian organization or not?
No,
Thank you.
You got the pentagram.
on our foreheads.
What about Hubbard saying there was no Christ? That it was part of R6 that was misinterpreted because there was no.
I've never heard that.
How come I've heard it? I've heard it in Hubbard's own voice. There was no Christ. It was part of the R6.
I think quite the contrary. I think there's in a, I forget which book it is, but he acknowledges where he has taken much of his material, and one name on there was Christ. I could be wrong, but I think so.
You mentioned Christ positively. I didn't do RCCW, so I don't know what you're referring to.
Well, if I had an email or something for you, I'd send you the audio clip of
Here's
this thing.
part of the problem, is you're asking me questions from information you've got somewhere, asking me to answer information I may have gotten somewhere. Neither of us were there, so we're just talking about it. So I don't know.
We talk about Christ. I mean, was Christ there? I mean, historical. I mean, we also talk about people that we have information on that's very solid information.
Everybody talks about Jesus, but are you a Christian organization as indicated by a Christian symbol?
The answer is, and I'm not speaking for the church, but from my opinion, no. Once again.
Not what their 501c says.
Okay.
No, it's something about Jesus.
You mentioned you had a child in the C ward.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
This may be a kind of a change in what we've been talking about. I'm interested in the evolution of ideas, not just while I get this idea I've been reading about, and I've been reading Hubbard's books and so on. Now, I ran across...
Which book did you read?
Pardon?
Which book did you read?
Well, I've read, I've looked at a number of them, but the most recent one is his book on war. That's fascinating to find. Yeah, okay, anyhow, what I ran across was his reference to games and experiments. Now, these two concepts are fundamental in science, the leading edge of science. In fact, scientists look at experiments as being the source of information so that you could play games better. The idea of a game is that you're trying to outwit an adversary. That's what's going on here, by the way. We're trying to outwit each other. Okay, anyhow, what I'm interested in is to be able to talk to Scientologists about some of these ideas, which to me are very significant, and how they fit in with the development of Scientology. Now, do you have any seminars or discussions of ideas like that? For example, you could just go to Hubbard's books and say, we'll discuss this one.
Yes. I think on Tuesdays and Thursday nights they have a seminar at the downtown church on 4th Avenue between A and Ash.
Okay, now
Now, in connection with that, I guess I heard somebody say, well, it costs money.
The seminars are free.
Oh, okay, see, now this is good to know. All right, now you say that that's when?
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
And where?
On 4th Avenue between Ash and A Street.
Towards between Ash and
In fact, if you go this Tuesday, I'm giving one, so
Oh, very good.
May I
I'm filling in for something.
You're a
so-
glutton for punishment.
Yeah.